Here I'm looking at WPCodeBox and trying to explain why for me this is rapidly becoming one of the most useful additions to my web design toolbox in the last 5 years. I've been mentioning WPCodeBox for a while, and recently I tried to review it and failed. I'm not a reviewer. All I did was bore myself with a very long video that was too much about how this plugin is rapidly developing. As it's relatively new, it's probably best for you to take a look at their website and particularly their roadmap to see where they are at the moment. It's great as it is, but it's yet to reach its full potential. So there is also a very attractive lifetime deal, and the author has also given me a special 25% off coupon code. Just enter Beaver Junction and that will give you the best discount available. What I'm going to do here is give you an insight into how I'm using it now and how I plan to further incorporate it into my workflow. Then if anyone is still interested, I'll follow this up with shorter, more practical posts where I can also share snippets. But the short version is that WPCodeBox is a WordPress code snippets plugin that allows you to store your snippets to the cloud. And it comes with a repository of ready-to-use snippets. In the next release, there will be a way to export what you've done in WPCodeBox into your own plugin. This should mean that you can remove dependency on it and treat it more like a web building tool. It was the conditions builder that first caught my attention. I've been doing a fair bit of work on website performance, and even though my page builder, Beaver Builder, loads assets conditionally, there's always something that can be tweaked. Typically that would be removing defaults coming from WordPress, from Gutenberg, and from other plugins and services. And I didn't want the dependency or the complexities of these new wave of performance plugins, as I could generally find good code snippets to remove and add what I needed. But not being a programmer, I struggled to conditionally hook these into pages or post types as I wanted them to load. And this seemed like a good solution. From there, I realized that the conditions builder could replace a lot of admin side plugins, some of which have let me down, have been sold and turned into other types of plugins, are just used for advertising. And what I've done is, with the post that goes with this, and I'll link below the video, I've listed out the types of plugins that I am replacing. And what I will do is follow this up also with some posts where I'll show the snippets that I'm using and explain a little bit why I'm using them and the pros and cons of that. I've already started this a little bit. There is already one article that I've done on one of these. It's also helping me to reduce my dependency on a particular theme, which leads me on to what is the real key thing now about WPCodeBox. What really excites me is its ability to bring in Sass, CSS, to my WordPress workflow, and also to have it live load as well. Now, Beaver Builder has allowed me to speed up my page layouts, do clever stuff with dynamic content, and give my clients an easy to use UI for their content updates. But it's also made me a bit lazy, inefficient, and perhaps too dependent on it. Now, I've not taken seriously the prophets that say Gutenberg will kill page builders. They seem to represent people who would profit from that, so I view it as marketing. But I find it's easy to invest time in skills that are not transferable and would not let me evolve should change happen. My CSS skills were more basic than they are now when I used to globally style Genesis child themes back in 2011. Recently, I looked at one of these sites and realized how easy it would be for me to restyle compared to some of the messy sites I've made now. Easy page builder options that often made me my worst enemy, slowing me down also from staying up to date with the real game changers for me in web design, which is the development in CSS and what can be done with Sass, syntactically awesome style sheets. If you don't know about this, I'll be talking about this a lot more. Although Sass partials are yet to be supported in WPCodeBox, I've started setting up a system with Sass, and I again will expand this on further posts, but there's much to consider with it. But I see me being able to use Sass in WordPress sites will give me more flexibility, speed and control, and will help me also adapt a more agile and collaborative approach with clients. But that's enough of me talking. Let me go and just show you some of the stuff here. So I will go in to here and just talk about the conditions builder. But first I should just mention the UI here. To a large extent you can make that your own, have a light or a dark, you can arrange the panels around. Things keep changing with the settings that are here, but also there are some code snippets. So in this particular case, you'll see that there isn't the WordPress menu bar over here. Now there would be normally, but I've gone into the repository of snippets, gone to the ones that are actually for this plugin and put it full width, and I can just download that and add that. So, you know, your look might be entirely different to mine, and it gives me a lot of space there so I can dual screen when I want to do some CSS styling. So that's really why I set that up. Okay, conditions builder. So what we can do here, so I would, let's say in this example, it's one that I'm not using. I wanted to remove jQuery, which comes with WordPress, from my home page because it's not needed there and it's a big JavaScript file. I would easily be able to find something like this script here, but then I'd often get stuck as I used it. So here, this is a kind of a silly example, I guess. I go into the conditions builder. I've set this up already. So I'd add a group and add in one condition. And I've got some choices here: location, current post, post types, post parent, taxonomy, custom PHP conditions, which I'm not going to, page URL, logged in users, logged in roles, time and date. So there's a lot of choice here for the conditions. And I would set this to current post is, go from the drop down, pick my page, which was home. It worked fine, got rid of it on the home page. Then I would hit another problem, like my page builder relies on jQuery to work and I want to change that page. So then I would get stuck. But here what makes it easy, I just need the logic. So I just say, okay, my page builder sends you to another URL to work on that page. So I'll just make sure I've got something that it means that if it's containing that, it will, you know, continue to work. The script won't run on that. And I came out of the page builder, and as a logged in person saw that I also had some issues. So I could easily then just say, okay, well, you know, don't run it if there are these roles in here. So that's the kind of thing that I would find difficult to do if I ran up against these problems. So it's given me a lot of power there. And of course I can add in another group with all statements as well, and then add more conditions to that. So I hope that gives you an insight to that. Let me move on to the thing that I'm really excited about, and that is being able to work with Sass. So a little project which I'll talk about later that I'm doing now, I started it ages ago and got stuck. Sass has helped me out, is that I wanted to separate out my styling from what and deal with that separately to what my theme and page builder did. So what I've done here is I've got this kind of template here, and maybe it looks more obvious with some real content on another page, and everything's zeroed out. So the only styles that are coming in from Beaver Builder are those that are actually put in the rows there and the columns, but everything else and the margins and the paddings is all zeroed out. So I can put everything into here, and it's the same with the theme. And then I'm able to do this. I'll just turn this on just so you can see what happens. Now in this case I have to refresh because I'm just turning it on, but for the rest of the time I just need to save to see updates in my style sheet. So let me just go and show you an update. Maybe I'll just quickly talk about Sass because I'll talk about this later. What it does is it brings this ability to be able to really organize your style sheets in a way. Now, what partials, which is coming to WPCodeBox, will do is allow you to put these into different sheets and have them kind of import into this one major sheet. So what you can do with it, you can use something called mixins, where you can have reusable styles that you set up, and I could place those somewhere else, the same as my colors, and really have with also the ability to nest certain things in a way that you can't with regular CSS, it's a lot easier to kind of lay out and see what you're doing in one style sheet on this. So I'll be talking about this a lot more. And also you've got the kind of programming. So if I wanted to set up breakpoints and do all my responsive work, I can use the programming. So I can use if and else if statements to set up something here. So if I just go over and go into my hero section here, we'll see that we've got something which would take more CSS. So I've got a background color set on my hero row to the primary color that I've set up in my SAS map. And then I can just include the breakpoint that I want for desktop. And otherwise, if it's below that, then go to the secondary color that I've set in. So it's kind of much more easier to kind of understand what we're doing there. So let me just give you an example of a mixin. No, actually, maybe I'll just change a color first so you can see. I'll go back to the top of my page where I've got these. Now, I also have one with custom variables, but what you can do with mapping with SAS is that it outputs the regular CSS, where if you're using variables, they're pretty much well supported now, but there's still about 5% of browsers which don't. So this would be the better route, and it gives you some other controls as well. So let me just go and do a quick, I'm going to change my primary color to this variable I've got. And normally I dual screen this, but what happens when I'm saving this, which I can do just with Control and S in the usual way, it's going to change out all of my kind of primary colors over here. And one of the cool things about SAS is I've been able to include that color then programmatically into this SVG, which is really a data URL. And I've been able to do the same thing if we go over to my about page. Oh, I got that up separately. I've been able to do this with this duotone thing as well. It's related to my primary color there, and we'll change all of those. Let me just do one more thing. I will go and with one of the mixins, one of the save styles, a very simple one here. I've got border radius where I include that wherever I want that in my style sheet. And I'll change this from 0 to 30 pixels so I can round things up. And if I go in here, we should see all the buttons and these images are rounding. What I like is with the responsive stuff and bringing this in with this kind of way is that then I can use this live view to, and in my case, I would use Hoverify. I can bring up the displays for multiple displays here. And on my other side, I can be working on and saving and seeing how these are playing in real time. As you can see here, that other media query that I put in is showing effect here because it's gone beyond the breakpoint. So we can see that, and I can do this all live and see what's happening across multiple devices. So this is exciting, a little bit ambitious, I guess, what I'm doing, and maybe not for all, but hopefully I'll be able to cover later stuff that might be of use. SAS is new to me, so I'm learning this. So if you are following me on this stuff, just know I'm not an expert, I'm just learning stuff. And then really, I guess I'm just working out how to apply that to a page builder setting, particularly Beaver Builder. Okay, there are some things that I need to run through just to make sure that I've mentioned. I mentioned that you can make the UI what you like. Oh yes, this is an interesting thing that's kind of just appeared to me. As I'm adding in more snippets, I haven't put them in folders. Now you can organize your stuff very well. And this keeps improving all the time, what you can do with folders, this thing where you can see which ones you've got turned on. But I've not organized myself because what I've realized as I put more things in here, it's almost becoming like a to-do list for me. So for example, if I'm working on a style sheet like this, changing things, we decide on what font I need. Well, then I'll use my script that I've got here that will load in locally my font or preload it if I need to do that. When we reach a point where, say on the main page, I'm just using SVGs to represent image sizes and styling that with the CSS. When we fix those and where those image sizes are going, again, I've got another script here somewhere which will actually allow me to override the defaults that are in WordPress and give them names. So I can set my custom sizes, give them names that's going to be relevant to me and the client in terms of where these images are going to be used. So it's that kind of to-do list as I'm building the site. So that's why I haven't organized that, and I'll be, you know, sharing, you know, the kind of issues that I come up against. Okay, preview mode. Okay, I don't use that. Now, what was probably set up in the first place was, let me just move this over, is for your live styling is to use this preview mode. So I can go into the site and see it here. And from here, it's got a selector. So it'll select a tool anyway. Now, let me just get on that right. And if I go in here, it's going to write my CSS. And another beauty of WPCodeBox, which is always improving, is that the auto suggestions, it's been added in recently for anybody who's working with ACF, I think Metabox as well. So, but here I just want simple CSS. So it just speeds up this kind of stuff, and then you can save, and then hopefully this will turn into red. Yes, as they're doing that. But I think with all of these selector tools, they may not select the best thing for you. I think it's kind of better to learn CSS because it will do the job, but it might not do it in the best way that's going to set you up in the future. But I'm sure many people watching my videos will know that already. Okay, so there's that. Yes, another thing is to, maybe it's just a tip at the moment, but it works more smoothly if you set up your CSS to reload when you set it to inline, which I would call internal CSS. So if I go over back again to my style sheet, whoops, let's get the right one, and I'll open this up again here. So you've got the options to make this an external file, which is how I would save it at the end. But while I'm working with it, I would use inline because it runs more smoothly, certainly with Beaver Builder, but also because of the way that SAS works, you're seeing one view and it's outputting the actual longer version of the CSS to the front. You're probably going to want to set it there so you can see this live, the actual CSS that is outputting. So should you have an issue, you've just placed something wrong trying to nest something, you'll just see the long version and whether it's interpreted it incorrectly. So you'll probably want that. I mean, this isn't on auto refresh, you just have to refresh that yourself. Let's go. What's the next thing? Oh, just finally, I mean, for those who do follow the things that I'm doing with Beaver Junction, which seems to have stopped, and the fact that I'm a big fan of Assistant Pro, which has also added one of the key features, being able to add snippets to the cloud. I will still be doing these things. So Beaver Junction with what I'm doing on my template's really for my rows and columns and basic styling. Beaver Junction's much more for doing experimental stuff with the modules that I use, which I'll soon be uploading to Assistant Pro, and I'll be using this with this. So I'll be using templates and this system setup. But what Assistant Pro doesn't do with its snippets, it doesn't give me obviously SAS, and it doesn't it doesn't give me all this kind of control over my snippets that I would find in WPCodeBox. So I should be using two together. Anyway, I think that's all I can say this time. I just thank you for your time today. I hope this wasn't too tedious to listen to, and I'd really love your feedback. But anyway, hope to see you next time and have a nice day. Bye-bye.